You owe me.
You're good. Thanks.
Here I am going out of my way.
Yeah, I'll sit there.
No, you're fine. I just don't, yeah, go ahead. You better watch yourself.
What I would do,
You
I
better
want
be
more.
here for the,
You want to waste some paper? Yeah.
Hey, I got one question.
exactly. Exactly. There's one more chair right over here.
Need a few more chairs. We're gonna get underway in just a couple of minutes. Yeah, but it's your table. Included
It's watching you, buddy.
Yeah. That's why I put mine.
Yeah,
Using yours with,
Yeah, I have a whole video of that.
Okay, and I kept meaning to report on the version.
Yeah. You enjoy it?
got something.
Go ahead. Good.
They're all on YouTube, relative videos.
Really? I'll have to look it up.
About 2 years back.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it's one word, relative video.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Planning, zoning.
They delete
That's
that.
awesome. Well, have to
It's
look
my,
it up.
it's my contribution to
There we go.
It's 7 o'clock.
There we
If I could have everyone's attention.
Like it.
I'd like to just start the meeting. Thank you everyone for attending the August meeting of the Rolling Street Planning Board. In attendance, we have our consultant John Krebs, Mike Brolo, John Hinsman, Kevin Haynes, Sarah McLaughlin, Patrick Talley, and Carolyn Kendall is our alternate. Just as a outline of our procedures for tonight's meeting, we have a pretty heavy agenda. For each application, we're going to follow the same procedure. I'll seek a motion to accept the application as complete. We'll ask for a brief update from the applicant. After that, the board will discuss and ask any questions on the application. After that, we'll hold a public hearing, at which point the public has a chance to ask questions or add comments, and then we'll close the public hearing and vote or something like that. All right, so first on our agenda is we have Paul Terrian for 27 Silver Street.
Didn't realize you were first on the agenda.
No worries.
But he's, a copy in your package. Before the kids, I didn't bring them. Yeah, okay. All set? My name is Jeff Oliva. I'm an engineer with Civil Consultants, here representing the Therians with this proposed subdivision. Their lot on Silver Street is surrounded by the town cemetery to the west and the south, and another cemetery on the other side, so they're kind of surrounded by that, and what they'd like to do is divide their lot into two parcels. They live in the front and they would like to build a house in the back for themselves. We have a plan that's been presented to the code office. We started there and then went through. We had some review comments that were made by town staff. We made those changes and submitted those plans. And that's pretty much it. As you can see on the plan, we have the property originally is kind of a square. We have a section coming out in the back. One of the plans kind of shows the proposed house in the back of the property. We have a driveway easement because the existing driveway goes to the garage that's on the property, and that's really it.
So when we saw this plan before, we talked about putting a completely separate driveway.
Yeah, there will be a separate driveway that comes off on the western side that goes into to the back of the property. John, if you could flip that to the other side. I know in the package, I think we provided a plan there. Yep. So the other plan that's labeled L1 on there shows that proposed house in the back, how it meets the setbacks, and the area out for where our soil scientists indicated where we have plenty of good soils for a single-family septic system. The property is serviced by town water.
Okay. Comments from the board? Kevin?
I have a question. I see where to gain frontage to the back lot, you've extended over into the current driveway
Yep.
of the front house. And I understand right now, obviously they're owned by the same people. But in the event it becomes a subsequent sale later on, are you planning to record a deeded easement?
Yeah, that's, if you look on that line, you see that kind of dashed heavy line that's to the left of where the property line is? If you go to the other sheet, the
Kevin, it's
boundary
right,
sheet.
it's right here. I think we talked about this at the last meeting, but this area right here is the access easement, or the easement that allows the driveway to remain.
Yeah.
There's no other way they could ever get that driveway onto this lot without that
Absolutely.
easement. So yes, it's protected.
I remember that from last time. That was my only concern.
Yep.
State road also, so.
Yep, we've applied for our driveway permit. The one thing that they want us to do is show them a section of how the grading goes off of their road onto our driveway.
We've already made the
Yeah,
application.
absolutely. Yep.
Just give folks a minute to take this out.
Supplying power to the back as well. That'll just be simply drawn from the pole to the masthead or whatever. There'll be no additional poles required for
No.
that length.
No.
It's not underground
I'd
service.
put- Well, not necessarily, I wouldn't mind putting it underground if possible.
Yeah, I think the idea is that it would come into where we can get it underground and take it down along the driveway to the
But
house.
that's not what you're proposing here today. I mean, this is expense involved in that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've shown anything on there on how the powers can get there, but.
Well,
It doesn't require a pole for that speed.
Oh, okay.
Requirement of the subdivision.
yeah, I brought it up in my review. That was my first.
Okay. I mean,
I don't know if you put that on there, Jeff?
yeah, I think we did on the subdivision plan. There was an additional note that
Is
we
this
talked
the-
about.
is this
Yeah,
this
right
number?
here. Lot number 1 benefits from an easement and utility easement over to lot 2. Maintenance of existing utility wires on the driveway. Yeah, all utilities servicing lot 2 shall be located underground. Yeah, that
Which
was-
is, I don't know if you have, I don't have,
That was-
I've
that was
never
the-
seen these for the first time. It's
Okay,
lot,
so-
it's lot 14, that's in Dewmore.
Oh, okay.
Jeff responded to my, he got my comments.
On the 10th, yeah.
Okay, but you've got it-
Or not, 8th or 9th or 10th, and we
Yeah,
came
so
back
that's-
and had that's adjusted. Sorry, about- you may not have that in your package, I don't think you have the updated plan based on the comments that came back. On the 7th.
So there's a number of other questions that Mr. Krebs had raised.
Yeah, so we
Have
did.
you already taken care of them? in the
Yeah, I can
plan?
I can go through them if the board would like, the items that we did.
Okay.
We've changed the discussion on the indication about what the bounds need to be in the front and where we have indicated it on the plan. We've provided a letter to the town indicating that the PLS, the land surveyor that prepared the plan, is aware of the presentation, aware of the project that I'm here tonight. And that we changed the note as indicated in review comment number 1, all utility servicing lot 2 shall be located underground. So there were 6 comments, and we've addressed those 6 on
I hate to do this to you, but I did miss something, Jeff, and I don't know, I really think we need to have pins on that easement, and even iron pins. Are those, is that, I can't tell if those are shown on the plan or not.
Yeah, no, those will be pins to be set on
Okay,
that.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
Not that you care, but someone may care
Yep.
sometime down the road. As long as those are pins, that's fine.
Yeah.
Is it actually in the asphalt, you mean?
No, right here. Well,
Yeah.
that was one of my comments. I said, you can't really put a bound here.
Right.
So what I suggested doing was putting it, I don't know where you said it, Jeff. Because this is in the middle of the pavement.
Yeah, yeah.
So where are you setting the bound?
I think the idea would be set there, and we just drive it down below.
Oh, below the asphalt?
Yeah.
I don't care if you, I just, I mean, these are the 2 corners I'm talking about, though, that one and that one, which are monumented easement. This, I don't know about that one. I mean, I don't know if you want, you're a surveyor, but I would defer to your office, because I'm afraid if you put it, if that's paved, that driveway?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't want you to pound something
Yeah.
through the asphalt.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm afraid if you put one here, it's gonna be confusing. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, I mean, there's it's in the plan and it's in the deed about where the properties are, and the plan will be recorded, so, that's,
Is
whatever goes.
is an offset monument stupid, like 20 feet away, is it confusing?
I think it would be. I think an offset monument would be confusing in that situation.
Then I'll defer to you, 'cause
Yeah.
I don't wanna cause any
Yeah.
problems. So,
Yeah.
I think if we pin that, whatever else you
Yeah,
pin.
we've got the,
That's
in the back.
This is the only one that should be missing then, 'cause I don't think it's fair
There's
to
those 2
drive
locations.
through a driveway.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna introduce all sorts of.
Yeah,
Being required.
that's, yeah,
Works its
that's
way
fine.
up. Okay. Anything else from the board? Mr. Hinsman's pensive over here?
No, just,
Okay, so at this point, I think it's safe to open our public hearing and accept comments from the public. Don't be shy. Okay, oh,
Did,
you can just state your name and your address, please, sir.
Mark Kuchar, 204 Summersworth Road, Rollinsford. Did a butter notices go out on this project?
Yes,
They must have, right, but it's.
I got one.
Absolutely, and it was noticed in the paper.
Nothing went out to the cemetery?
The cemetery's the town, so yes,
It
it
would have
did.
just gone to the town.
Well, it would have been nice to get notified, you know?
Okay,
Can you tell me your address again?
204 Summersworth Road. Anything else?
I just wanted to follow up on that. There was, I did make a comment in here that, where is it? My comment number 6, and I found this with, I think, all 3 applications. The statute requires that anybody that stamps these plans be notified of the meeting. So generally, if you look at the abutters list, they would be, you'd see all the abutters, and you'd see the licensed professionals that stamp these plans on that list. Jeff didn't do that, but he did provide a letter saying that, I mean, he shared an office with Chris Mendy, so he provided a letter to the board saying that he was aware of this meeting. But I think from now on, we need to make sure, and I don't know how that
Is that
Okay.
a
but they need to
hole
be
we have in our process?
No, no,
Their
I'm,
notification list was actually on once already.
Oh.
So if I missed that one, I caught a couple that.
Yeah,
So.
it's just that anybody that stamps these plans, and that word is sort of, generally they don't stamp them, so you gotta look at who the
Right.
surveyors and who the wetland
So
scientists.
it's tough because like really the onus of that, I mean, we check it, but the
Yeah,
onus is
it's on,
on.
and I don't, you shouldn't do it, because if you make a mistake, then people are gonna be pointing the finger at you. So it's their mistake, Jeff acknowledged it, and he remedied it, so. But just going forward, anybody that certifies these plans should be notified, or has to be notified. So, but that's been remedied, so I'm,
Yeah, I guess we take it for granted that we're all in the same office and we're working together on the project, but that.
doesn't always
John,
happen.
but you're right,
Yeah.
but that doesn't always happen everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're good with public comments. So I would open up,
Move that we find the application complete.
thank you, Mike.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. So it's supposed to be the first thing we did. That's okay. This is additional discussion.
I mean, the only thing, if you're gonna approve this, and I think it's ready to be approved, and the only condition that I have is that the licensed land surveyor needs to give you a certificate of monumentation. What, do you have that?
We don't, but
Okay,
we typically,
yeah.
we don't do that until the.
Till they set.
Until
Right,
the it goes
right.
in before they pull the building permit.
Yep. Well.
Well, as that process goes.
I mean, I want it before the plan is recorded. because-
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
Yeah, that way we know it's done.
Yep.
It's easier to follow, you know,
So I
but
would
that's the only condition.
entertain a motion of,
I'll move conditional approval pending proof of monumentation.
Second the motion?
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. The application is approved. And once you have that certificate, we'll make arrangements to sign it.
Okay, well,
Condition on getting the certificate of monumentation as well.
and so you won't sign the Mylar until the bounds are in, or is that?
Here's what you're gonna do, you're gonna set the bounds.
Yeah, okay.
Chris is gonna give,
Yeah.
is gonna provide, he'll write a quick
Yep.
certificate saying you set them.
Yep.
You're gonna give that to Miles with the
Okay.
Mylar and he'll sign it.
All right, perfect.
At his,
Okay,
what,
Yeah.
you have his email address, I'm assuming?
I do, yeah.
Just contact him, it could be tomorrow or the next day,
All right,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm flexible.
And then,
All right.
do we wanna talk about the recording?
Yes, so the tax collectors agreed to start reporting again, so we were gonna work out a process tonight after this was all over, so.
So you'll turn over the Mylar
To the town.
Yeah.
And pay the
to
fee.
Caroline, I would assume to Caroline.
Someone here.
At this point, it'd probably be easier just to do it with Caroline.
And sure,
Okay.
And then-
along with the, and we don't know what the fee
Yeah.
is, but
Yeah,
there's gonna be an administrative fee to just to hand deliver it, plus the recording, so
Yeah.
the L-chip fee.
all right, okay. Yeah, so we'll talk with you.
Unless you want to stick around to the end of the meeting and we'll figure out how we're doing it.
I don't like.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Next up, we have the Rollinsford Realty Trust. This is Jesse Doe.
Dana, these are the same things. No change. Everybody is in. Yep.
You want it smaller?
Find a job. I pay easel.
I don't know how many you have. Oh, it is. Can you do that one?
Good evening. Good evening.
I didn't know if you wanted to accept the application first, or do you want me to just go ahead and do my thing?
Yeah, I think I think we're, per John's analysis, we would be ready to accept the application as complete. Okay?
I'll second.
All in favor of accepting the application as complete?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, guys have it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Lynch. I'm here on behalf of Rollins Realty Trust, as is Mike LaPointe hiding behind the drawing. We came before you, I believe, probably a couple of months back, just on a preliminary basis to talk about this project. Rollinsford Realty Trust is the owner of the property. This is basically a project for C&J Transportation. So from here on in, I'll refer to it as C&J, it's a little bit easier. Essentially, if you look at the cover sheet, what we're working with is a 2.1 acre, 2.2 acre parcel of land that used to be comprised of two parcels, one owned by the town of Rollinsford and the other one by the St. Hilaire's. One portion of this whole project will include a lot merger being acted on by you folks. So that's probably one of the initial actions. Beyond that, the proposal is to construct a 3-bay bus storage facility, much in the same fashion as the one that's further up the road across from Clearwater, a well drilling company. The building is 58 feet wide by 60 feet long. We are providing 2 access points off of Jesse Doe Road. We are asking for a waiver on the width of those driveways necessary to accommodate the turning radiuses for buses moving in and out of the facility. We've set it up so that the bus maneuvers work in both directions, but primarily the buses will arrive from their routes, head up to the main maintenance facility, probably go through the wash, and then come back down the road and be parked in this building overnight or whatever period of time. And then they'll leave after the driver arrives and parks in one of the parking spaces that we've allocated. They'll depart and head out on their route the next day, business day. There will be no public sewer or water to this building. It is strictly a storage facility. One thing I would point out is we are accommodating floor drains inside the building. The floor drains are necessary to pick up when buses arrive back to be washed, or if it's a real messy day in late March, early April, and we've got slush on the buses. It's a place for the drippings to be accumulated, and we are running to a holding tank, on-site holding tank. We have a holding tank registration approval from New Hampshire DES, which I believe I sent to you, but if you don't have it, I can copy it with me this evening. So that will accommodate any kind of runoff from the buses inside the building. Other than that, we'll run underground electricity off the utility pole. It's in front of the site. In order to accommodate this facility, there's a large amount of wetlands on this site. If I can draw your attention back to the cover sheet, I tried to depict on there the wetland limits on the subject parcel.
Turn to your right.
So the wetland limits right now are right through here on this particular site. The remainder of the property goes this way, another 215 feet and another 170 feet. So quite a stretch down that direction. If you look at the cover sheet, the wetland area actually extends even over to the adjacent parcel, also owned by Rollinsford Realty Trust. So there's a large wetland area in there, and what we're doing is we're encroaching your 50-foot buffer for pavement, about 562 square feet of pavement and 561 square feet of slope. In other words, earth moving within the 25-foot buffer. We've been to the Conservation Commission about a month ago. I believe we received a favorable recommendation, although I haven't seen anything in writing yet.
I have it, yeah.
So, am I correct? It seemed to be well received and
Yeah,
We did have one recommendation, I recall,
yes,
just about the plantings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna encourage them to plant evergreen, screen, their plan currently includes native conifer, the front and roadside of the building. So, yeah, we can
Okay.
discuss.
So the other action to be taken is to act on conditional use approval as well. We have a landscaping plan that essentially has those 4 trees along this buffer right here. That's to kind of hide the building more than anything else as you come in Church Street. And then we have 4 birches, which I'll get to later, planted along the side of the road on our property, but along the side of the road. So that's the extent of our landscaping. We have building lighting similar to what we have at the other facility. It'll be LED shielded lighting along the building to light up the individual doorways. But we are going to expand that lighting so that we have a fixture right here at this parking area for security for the drivers. Beyond that, we are essentially, if there's anything extraordinary here that I can touch upon, maybe what I should mention is that we have received comments from both civil consultants and from Mr. Krebs. And suffice it to say, I don't know if you want me to go through these in detail, but we don't have any objections. We just have one question.
There was a mistake
Okay.
on number 1.
Yeah, the last couple of
I
sentences.
just, Caroline mentioned something to me on the phone the other day, and I didn't realize it, but yes, it's a mistake.
Okay, that's all right.
So my comment number 1 should say the lot line eliminated by lot merger granted by the planning board, period.
Yeah.
The rest of that, I don't know where it came from, but it's not germane to this project.
And we're more than happy to comply with that comment, understanding what its intent is.
But if you want to put some lights in it.
We're good.
Yeah.
We will improve the sheet numbering. That was an oversight on my part. I had a question concerning comment number 3, and I think now that I've mulled it over in my mind, as it takes some time for me to understand the comment, I think we can simply address this by, if you look on sheet 3, I have extended the Cape Cod berm, as it's called, CCB. I've extended it all the way out to the existing edge of pavement, which really is not necessary. And what I would offer to do here, I've done it on all the driveways, is I will just truncate that Cape Cod berm at the right-of-way line, and then there's no need to ask for any waiver.
You don't want to put granite in, do you?
No, I don't want to put granite in, and I have photos, there is no granite anywhere in the industrial park at any of the entrances. So what I was proposed to do in this case is to treat it like we treated the other vehicle storage building. We have Cape Cod berm on the sides of the driveways of that building, but it does not extend all the way out to the edge of the street.
Perfect.
So that solves that, we don't have to ask for a waiver.
Yep. Unless you want to talk to, if the road agent's fine with it, I've got no problem.
Well, no, the more I
If you
thought
don't
about
need
it,
it-
I understand what your comment is
I
that
think
if one of the
that-
town plows clips it, it's
They
gonna
don't
knock
want,
it out.
and they don't want the maintenance of
No,
it, so
and
I wouldn't think.
Perfectly reasonable.
Okay,
Um,
that's a good solution.
Stamps on the plans, we typically just kind of hold off on those until we've gone through the whole thing rather than stamping them multiple times. I've already touched upon the fact that we were more than happy to light that parking area for the employees. The birch trees, I will make a note on there that they're intended to be measured as 2.5-inch caliper, 12 inches above the finished grade. That's the intent, that's my understanding from my landscape friends, that's the standard approach. The topic you just touched upon in the previous application regarding notification of licensed professionals, we did in fact drop off revised labels and list about 2 days after we made this initial application back in late June. So I think it got covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mark and, I guess I really don't care. too
Yeah,
much
Mark,
about
Paul, myself, everybody got notice.
Yep.
You mentioned you had no issue with the conditional use permit, we can touch upon that, and again, we agree that the notice of merger probably should be acted on as part of the site plan application. skipping over very quickly, and I know your time is of the essence here. Civil Consultants has comments, none of which we have a problem with. They are all good comments. We do need to fine tune some numbers in our drainage analysis, but I do not believe, in my professional opinion, it will change anything. Just some corrections. And again, as I said before, none of their comments, they're mostly tidying up the plans and making them a little more consistent. For example, on our handicap parking space stall detail, if the dimensions do not match the town standards, even though we laid them out to match the town standards, so little things like that. So that, in essence, again, I don't have any problem with responding to all of their comments. I would humbly request that if you are comfortable with this evening, act on the lot line merger or conditional use permit. And if you feel comfortable to give a conditional final approval, subject to both of these professionals signing off that we've responded to their comments, that might save you another chance to sit down and enjoy a summer evening with me.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Open it up to comments, questions from the board.
Could you comment on the stormwater note, what is, just let us know what that's about? Is that a concern that, because it's saying that you use different, use grass cover when forest tree cover should have been used, does that affect the stormwater coming off this property?
This is for civil consultants.
Right.
Yes, that was the stormwater review, and essentially, there appears to be a little bit of confusion as to whether this existing tree line was used or the proposed toe of slope was used. And it's a matter of a few hundred square feet difference. We will check those numbers, but again, in my professional opinion, I don't believe it will render any type of difference in the pre and post development analysis. We will perform all those changes and make sure that Jay Stevens is comfortable with it, but I'm not concerned about it.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So at this point, why don't we open the public hearing to accept comments from the public. Any questions?
Sally Leopold, 426 Washington Street. Is the lighting on the building, I can't see it, okay, directed only at the building and it's not gonna overflow onto the road?
Correct.
Or anything like that?
Correct. We have to do what they call a photometric analysis. And so we have an area of coverage for the light, but the idea is that it be directed downward, and it only extends out from the building about 20 feet.
Okay.
So it lights the area right around the doorways. And a new light fixture that we will propose will be around the parking area, those 4 parking spaces. And that will be the same type of lighting, downward directed lighting, LED lighting, energy efficient lighting.
If the board, Dana, what's the sheet number on the photometric?
Sheet number 4.
The goal for me, when I made that comment, was that I want to make sure there's not zero foot candles between the parking area and the building, so it may require 2 spaces. I'm sorry, two light poles. I just don't think it's fair to ask, an employee to walk at 9 o'clock at night in the winter's night, with no lighting between the parking area and the building, so.
That's a fair.
So one light might do it.
We will put in the appropriate light
Yeah.
fixture. We don't want it to be any higher than it has to be.
No.
And if it needs to be 2, we will put in 2, but it will conform to the same photometric design standards.
And my question was geared towards this intersection where the railroad tracks is. Living in that neighborhood, I just want to make sure that drivers are coming back and forth and it's not going to affect the roadway.
No, God, no. It doesn't leave the property line.
And so your plan is only to have buses in and out of here a couple of times a day, so it shouldn't affect traffic a whole lot.
It's not gonna change, excuse me, a little bit of a cold going on. It's not gonna affect the number of buses that go in and out at all.
Okay.
Basically, we have parking for 23 buses and need parking for 28. So this will get me 3 more, get me a little closer. We don't have snow on our buses, you know, like some of the bus companies and trucks will go down the highway, the snow will blow off. We don't do that, don't, I like the parking inside.
And they'll go down over the railroad tracks instead of down under the bridge, is that correct? Or
well,
whichever
I'll
way
go-
is feasible?
Yeah, go, but normally now, most of them go over the railroad tracks because they go to Dover.
I'm sorry, sir, can you repeat your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike LaPointe with C&J Bus Lines.
Is it Lakepoint or Lovepoint?
LaPointe.
Okay. I was just concerned about the intersection, because that's a
Yeah.
point of contention sometimes in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay. So we want to suspend the public hearing, not close it, in case we have to open it back up. Is that right, John?
Yep, I would.
Anything else from the board? Any other concerns?
Do you want to talk about the Conservation Commission letter?
Oh.
Dana sort of brought it up, Rich, because if you read my comment number 7.
About the birch trees?
Yeah, I mean, they're not a solid tolerant tree, but if you look at where they planted them on the lot, they're, I don't know what, 30 feet from the edge of pavement, quite a
Yes.
ways.
Yeah.
I don't really,
It's the roadside swale.
I don't really care about the fact they're not solid tolerant, as long as they understand that if they die, they have to replace them. And I don't wanna have to replace trees every other year. But Dane, I haven't been out there, but I know that you've used birches with success before, so it's just a comment, you know, if anybody has any strong feelings about using a different species of tree, that'd be great, but as long as they maintain them.
That's what we have out there now. I can't tell you the exact birch trees.
No, I'm no arborist.
No.
I don't
So
think it-
she's saying that you propose to plant a specific native conifer,
Oh, that's,
not a birch.
That must be-
those 4 down along the railroad tracks.
Okay, so their comments really address that landscaping, the evergreen screen, and the use of the specific, no.
You're proposing what?
What is the
Junipers?
Yeah. so that-
In the back.
there you go.
Okay.
Mount Van junipers.
Would they like an indigenous tree, is that what they're saying?
So the letter says we strongly encourage them to plant evergreen screen. Their plan currently includes a specific native conifer along the front roadside of the building. And we also asked for details about managing runoff from the parking lot and draining from the floor in the building. It appears from the plans that they had thoroughly addressed these concerns, and we were satisfied with this small encouragement on the wetland or buffer
So
zone.
they're cool.
So really, they don't have an issue.
Okay, they're cool, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And in fact, in the first paragraph, they said the board voted unanimously to recommend approval plan as it presented.
Okay, cool. So I think, like, in terms of process, or Miles, I'm sorry, in terms of process, the 2 things you should act on are the lot merger first, and then, I don't know if you have a copy of the waiver, but I can give it to you if you don't have it, it's in the application package. I can give you both, actually. Here, pass it now. The waiver's on top, the merger's right below it. So, I would act on the merger first, and then act on the waiver of 3E, which is the driveway width waiver, and then decide how you're gonna handle the application.
So, we would need a motion to approve the merger of these 2 lots.
That's all you need to do. And then
favor of that motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Oh, and I lied to you, the conditional use permit, I forgot that. So I don't know what you wanna do in terms of, maybe the conditional use permit first, then the waiver of 3E. Right. And I don't know what the conditional use permit is, because I just gave him that packet, but
Okay.
Dana can probably tell you what the section is.
Sure.
It might be right behind there.
Yes, I believe it is, but just in case, the conditional use permit pursuant to zoning ordinance section 6.7, wetland conservation district, paragraph 2. And the relief sought relates to the dimensional requirements described in paragraph 4A1, 4A2 of said section 6.7. So if that isn't confusing, basically, it's just for the working involved.
Right.
So from the wetland edge extending 25 feet.
Those are the specific requirements in your zone, as stated in your zoning ordinance.
Okay. So, is anyone comfortable making a motion to issue a conditional use permit?
I'm comfortable making that, I don't know what everything you just said.
So I think we just want to include, that we,
So you're gonna make a motion that you request to, or to approve the conditional use permit pursuant to the town of Ron, the zoning ordinance section 6.7, paragraph 2. Oh, sorry.
Didn't remember the first one, so I'm not gonna look. Sorry.
The way I read it, didn't
All right, so which, it's pursuant to
what's the top?
top two?
6.2.
All right, so I'll move that we grant conditional use, conditional use permit pursuant to the town of Rollinsford zoning ordinance, section 6.7, wetland conservation district, paragraph 2, as it relates to the dimensional requirements described in paragraph 4A1 and 4A2 of the aforementioned section 6.7.
Here's a second on that.
Second?
Is there a, just so everyone's clear, is there any discussion and questions on what we're proposing here? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Motion passed. And then the waiver for,
3E, for the driveway width. Widths, actually.
That's right, and so we don't have any life safety concerns with reducing the size? Fire trucks, the buses, if you're imagine a fire truck, you get to reduce it.
They're making it wider.
You're making it wider.
You're making it wider.
Wider than
Yeah,
allowed.
the fire trucks will fit now.
The town's requirement for a one-way driveway or maximum for one-way driveway is 18 feet,
I
I
see you're
believe.
going the other way.
And we're going
Okay.
30 feet to accommodate the buses, which
Perfect.
will also accommodate fire vehicles. It's the similar waiver we had asked for the other facility.
When you were describing it earlier, you said that clearly, and I was saying something to it?
Just, I don't, you probably shouldn't bring this up because I don't want to, but I will. Sure. The fire chief, you haven't added this, but they don't care about getting around this building. There's absolutely no reason. I mean, if there is a fire, they're gonna fight it from one end to the other.
Yeah, they can fight it from 3 different sides.
Okay. The last thing, I mean, I
Actually,
certainly
4
don't want
plus
to.
3, at least. Three easily.
I can't imagine that one go behind it.
No.
Well, they can't go behind it, but I would go into
Railroad tracks.
Right.
I wouldn't want to go in front either, so I guess leave it alone.
Do you need a motion for this?
yes, please.
Sorry. I'd like to make a motion regarding the request for waiver that in regard to section, Article 3, Section 3E, that we grant a waiver to allow for 2 30-foot wide one-way driveways. It's necessary to accommodate the project design of vehicles, buses, and their associated training radii requirements.
John, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Which brings us to conditional approval of the entire application, pending sign off from the professionals and the changes that we've talked about.
Can we go over the list before we talk about
Absolutely.
conditions? As much as I don't want to see Dana again, maybe we may want to see him again. Let's just go through the list.
Sure.
So obviously, number 2, the sequencing is pretty straightforward
Yep.
on the pages. Number 3, they're gonna remove the bituminous Cape Cod berm within the right-of-way on both driveways. 3 and 4, they're gonna have stamps on the plans. 5, there's a little bit of a judgment call. They're gonna light the area between the parking area and the area between the parking area and the building. I think number 9, they need to add a note on on the final plan saying that the conditional permit was granted on today's date.
It's right here, it's just gonna be filled in.
And then do you have a waiver note?
Yes, it's gonna be filled in.
Then I guess I have no problem with conditional use. I mean, a conditional approval, as long as, yeah. So Jay Stevens got a, issue with clean bill of health, and I can look at these minor things, but, and so then the other thing would be final review by the town engineer in either he or you, Miles. Save you a trip back.
Just to further on that, can I get clarification exactly on what items of Jay Stevens' concerns that you would like to?
Well, that's why it's always a roll, but, Dana's sitting here saying he can address them all, and he agrees, and I don't know if he agrees with them. He will deal with it. So what we want is a letter from Jay Stevens saying, I have no issue. If he has one issue that's a sticking point, then they would have to come back.
We're gonna have to come back.
So Dana said he can work it out with Jay, if he's confident he can work it out, that's what we want.
And can we get a summary of the issues that you are going to address?
Be happy to, I'll go through them quickly. Sheet 1, the cover sheet, plan needs to be dated. Note 11 should reference the road standards for the town of Rollinsford. And parking calculations note suggested planning board determination. That might be something we want to discuss, but we propose 3 parking spaces plus a handicap parking space because we have 3 buses, 3 driveways.
I made the calculation, and
Yeah.
it seemed logical.
It seems, there wasn't anything else that covered this
Right.
particular use of the regulations. On the existing conditions plan, the legend needs to be embellished to include the wetland line. We probably should use a different line type for the high-intensity soil line, no problem. Just a matter of a CAD operation there. We need to complete the sheet number. It says sheet 2 blank, I believe. And I also need to make note of the high-intensity soils mapping, which was done by Joe Noel, who's a certified soil scientist. There's some scale issues on the graphic scale on sheet 3. They would like us to add directional arrows to the pavement. We think that's a great idea. Again, the sheet number, proposed clearing limit line is difficult to differentiate from other lines, so again, we'll make an adjustment in the CAD presentation. There's a typo on the pavement radius. It's not 52 feet, it's actually 5 feet. And they asked the question, will stabilized construction entrance be used at both driveway entrances? You know what a stabilized construction entrance is? It's basically a 50 or 75-foot approach of large stone so that the construction vehicles going in and out of the site during construction prior to paving don't track mud and debris out onto the public roads. We're going to put them at both entrances. Yes, that's fine. Site lighting, again, the scale adjustment, not a minor thing. The photometrics is misspelled. That's an engineer thing. Sheet numbers are incomplete, and the designer, I had already talked to Jay about this, the designer indicated that a light was being added to the car parking area for safety, so we're going to do that. Parking stall detail, I think I mentioned during my presentation. we've laid it out correctly, but we didn't put the correct numbers on our detail. We have a striking detail, so there's a mismatch there. They have no comments on the rest of the plans. They suggest that the plans be stamped, which they will be, and the stormwater review we touched upon. So I think, you know, I don't object to any of these, so we can accommodate all those changes.
That was helpful, thank you.
If you're gonna reprint these to give them to the board, are you gonna eliminate that lot line, or what are we gonna do about that?
We're going to put a note on it as you requested, is lot line.
But now the merge is granted, should we just get rid of it?
Well, your notes, kind of I thought was a good note, because it said, lot line eliminated by merger.
Okay,
Lot
cool.
merger granted by the Rollinsford Planning Board. That covers it.
That's fine.
So, with that, we prepared to entertain a motion to accept this application?
Second?
So all in favor of accepting, of approving the application with conditions which we'll list out, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, application is approved. Condition.
We will make the submission of plans to John and to civil consultants to solicit the letter. We'll also make we'll CC Catherine or Sarah a vote, just so you know that the submission has been made to the consultants. And once we get letters back, we will then finalize the plans and get the details squared away.
Okay, so as you might have heard earlier, we're implementing a new recording plan.
You don't record it.
We don't record site.
Site plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is,
Okay,
they scan this one.
Makes it easier.
Unless you wanna try to record this thing.
No, they don't like us to record site plans at the registry.
Okay,
But there is the lot line.
The merger
The merger is-
application gets filed?
I think the form gets filed.
Yes.
The form itself gets filed, so yeah, we do need to, that, you have it, Miles? That needs to be filled out by,
That needs to be signed by both the applicant and by the board, I believe.
you have my copy.
oh, sorry.
Well, you have it, but that form needs to be filled out. You have it, sir? That's what I read
Yes.
from.
Can I have that back?
Well, we need to fill this form out.
Oh, okay.
So we will get, we
I
will,
probably have a copy.
we will have Rollinsford Realty Trust sign that and get that back to you.
Well, let's talk about it. Who is wrong, because I know you, Mike, you signed the plans. Who is, or the application, who's gonna sign this?
Probably
Jim.
Yeah, Mr. Jello.
So, I think, you've got this all filled out. You want to, how do you wanna handle this? You wanna have them complete this form? Oh, but this isn't a,
It's a complete form, it just needs signatures.
This is maybe.
do you have a clean copy of this? Do you have a clean copy
I
of it?
mean, yeah.
Yeah, I
this
do.
is-
Mine's a little mangled.
I don't have to read it.
Well, do you have a clean copy that came?
I can give you a clean copy out of this package that it's.
Yeah, let's do that. Just tear it out neatly. Well, it's not, we're not gonna do it tonight anyway.
I was gonna say, I would
We
suggest
need-
you don't sign it
we need
until
the owner of
Mr.
the
Delbert
well.
signs it.
Yeah, I think that's the proper way too.
Okay, so I will get Mr. Delbert to sign it, and I will bring it in for the board's signature.
Okay,
And I will make sure that, you know, everybody's kept in the loop that it's been sent in and brought in, and we'll take it from there.
And then
If
we
it's a
will,
filing fee,
I
then
guess we will record
Then
this,
we'll record
so
that.
we will record this.
Yes, you will record that.
So we will charge you.
Absolutely.
We don't know how much we're gonna charge you.
No, no,
You're
we
welcome
can't,
to
we
say
can't
that
go
at
ahead
the
with this
meeting.
project if you're gonna charge us for that.
It's gonna be a small administrative fee, that's all we know of it.
so what if she does two at once? Like,
I don't know, that's your policy. I would charge them double it. I don't know, we need to tweak, I guess we need to figure that out.
You tell us what the fee is and we'll make sure.
Okay.
We'll figure it out
Okay.
sometime.
But I will make sure Mr. Delbert signs it first.
okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
We need a little break.
So John, do you need that out?
No, you can.
I just don't want to.
driveway
Thanks, Tom.
for all the
No
street
problem.
parking? Or something? Yeah.
I think.
All right. Moving right along. 224 Summersworth Road with Daniel Pepin. So John, so we're on John, did you not have a chance to review this application?
I did.
Oh, you did, okay. Oh, okay.
Well, page three.
Page 3. Yes, page 3. I didn't get all I got was this. So I didn't get an application.
Okay.
I don't tell them
I
that.
have 11 by 17s of the plan, I don't know if you have those or not, I just got.
So large one.
There.
Yeah, rest of these are work from
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I just might say, even if the application is ready to accept it, I want to give you a little bit of background
Okay.
on how this is, because I think this is a little more complicated. Maybe not so, but let's
let's
hope not.
let's talk about it.
So anyways, this lot that we're talking about was created in 2013 with a 4-lot subdivision. 3 lots that were on Greenview Drive, which is to the rear of the property. And then this lot that we're looking at here, that's under review tonight. Then in 2014, we submitted an application for a site review that allowed the construction of the building that's there right now. So in 2014, there was a site review application submitted, and in 2015, it was approved by this board. I'm not sure how many members were on the board at that time. I think it's pretty much a clean slate at this point. So as part of that application, we asked for a waiver from the landscaping requirements and a waiver from the HIS mapping, because we had done the HIS mapping during the subdivision, and it really didn't lend any advantage to what we were doing with the site plan review. As part of that site plan review, we showed a septic system that was installed since that was approved, and there was a driveway that was installed since that was approved, and some other various things as part of that site review application. This little pad here that has a Quonset hut on it, which is a storage facility, that was shown on the plan as to be kept in place, okay? So I went through my files.
You don't have a copy of that approved site plan, do
Well, what I have here is, and I don't, I asked Carolyn about that, the file, if she could look at it, but she said it was complicated fine. So I just wanted to recap this at this point, just to wonder if we should even be here, or if we're just looking for a change of use versus a site plan review. So I have an email here from, so this email is from my office manager, Cheryl, who was here before to present this plan. I could not make that planning board meeting, so. It said, and then Pat Macklin was the chair at the time. It said, "Good morning, Pat. We are ready to submit the final plan to the town following the planning board approval. Could you tell me the items that are to be delivered, how many copies, large and small, digital, how to deliver them today?" So then Pat writes back and says, "Just use the guidelines in the site plan recently submitted, and added the digital copy would be good." So then she wrote back, Cheryl wrote
What was
back,
the date
this
of
is, Cheryl wrote back January 20th, 2015. Okay? As previously submitted, 6 full-size copies, 24 by 36, and 4 small 11 by 17 sets of the site plans. Existing conditions of the proposed site plan will be delivered to the town today. I've also attached PDFs for these 2 sheets. Additionally, I've attached I have delivered a copy of the state approval letter and the stamp plans for your files. And as part of that, I also have This is a copy of the letter dated December 15, 2014, where we submitted all of the applications. That letter requests or submits the design standards for the high-intensity soil that we're asking a waiver for, and the landscape plan that we're asking a waiver for, and also for the traffic generation, because at that point, there would be minimal amount of traffic. So at the time that that was submitted, the facility was to be used for Turgeon Construction for maintenance of their construction equipment. Since that time, Dan Pepin, who is here, was the applicant, has opened that up to not just Turgeon Construction, he also does their work, but also construction, maintenance of other vehicles open to the public. So my thought is maybe this should be, instead of a site review application, maybe it should be a change of use application. But I'll leave that up to you to discuss. I can tell you that we've addressed, or I can tell you how I will address your comments, John, if we want to move ahead with a site review application. But I just want to make sure we're on the same page of what we should be reviewing.
So John, I would look to you for your,
Well, I don't remember, I mean, I was here in 2015, in 2014, I think Kevin was. I don't really remember,
I actually just found the minutes.
oh, you did?
Yeah, I was here.
What's that?
I was here for that.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, I guess I remember this coming in, but it was sort of a low-key, you know, like Kevin said, you know, small building to do maintenance on construction vehicles. It's my opinion, and I, you know, it really started with you saying that you need a site plan, I think, but because of the change use. Sort of the measure of what kicks off a requirement for a site plan review usually is the increase in intensity of a site. So if this was approved for a retail facility and they were changing it to a warehouse, the intensity would decrease, thereby not requiring a change use. It's my opinion, and again, you don't need to, you may not agree with me, but it's my opinion that because all of a sudden now we're bringing the public in here, it changes the intensity. Like I would never have agreed to waiving the landscape or lighting, or had I known the public was going to be in here. That to me is the difference. If it's just a construction company, they probably don't care. Now I think it's different, but that's my opinion, and therefore I think a review is required.
I would amend my opinion of John's statements there, is I would agree with that, at the time this was first proposed, and there were several other items. One question I'd ask is that everything that was part of that 15 approval has been addressed on the subject?
It has.
Everything completed?
And I don't have a copy of the occupancy permit, but they've been operating since 2015. So I'm assuming they have an occupancy permit otherwise.
But on that same train of thought, yes, when now you've got increased traffic going
Sure.
across the site.
No, I totally understand. I just wanted to get the background out so we all knew what we were talking about, whether it was a change of use or a site plan review. We're ready to move ahead, whichever you decide. That's not an issue.
okay, I tend to agree that this lends itself more to a site plan review, given the change in the use of the property. So with that, think our first order of business would be to accept this application as complete, so it can be acted upon.
Did you have an
Yeah.
opportunity to review the actual
I reviewed the site plan, I have not seen the application, so
Yes.
I guess, I mean, the plans are, I think they're complete enough to accept it and start the clock. I don't know what was submitted in the application, so. I was doing a lot, I mean, not much here.
Kevin, can I ask you a question
Yeah.
while John's looking
Sure.
at that? So if the prior, you had a prior, your client had a prior representative here, I think it was a woman, and
Yeah, Cheryl from my office.
And the concern that I came away from that prior presentation was that there was, whether or not the prior, conditions of the prior site plan had been met was not, it was up in the air, and I guess
She was not clear on that.
well, what I believe that she, it's my recollection, I'm getting older, but I thought there was some acknowledgements that some things had not been done, when there were a question about that, and I guess I have a concern about, how do we as a board determine whether or not those have been done, which, the requirements that were set forward before.
Right.
Are you representing they've been done, everything was done before?
To be honest with you, without the minutes and what was actually approved, it's difficult for me to say that.
I can tell you what, I mean, I have the minutes here from that meeting, and I can tell you what was.
I don't
and
think
it
it'll
was-
matter though, Sarah, 'cause, I mean,
If we're gonna move it
without, what we really need is, and what we don't have, is a copy of the approved site plan from 2015, and then someone goes out in the field and says, yep, it's all done. That's what we don't have. I mean, I don't know if there's a certificate of occupancy issued. Just because it was issued doesn't necessarily mean the building inspector said, hey, what's the deal with this Quonset hut and the overhead power?
Yeah.
Wasn't that, did the
Sure.
planning board allow that? That would be on a site plan. We never discussed compliance after it was approved, so I don't think the minutes are gonna tell anything, other than what we talked about, but,
It talks a lot about the quantity.
oh, it does?
Mhm.
What does it say about the Quonset
It's
hut?
just that it's staying and that it's gonna be included on the plan,
Oh,
which
It
I believe it
was.
was.
It was included on the plan.
yeah, so there you go. That answers that.
And then, I think another issue that's interesting is, somebody asked if they were planning to store any fuel on site. And the answer was no at the time.
I think the condition, if I'm not mistaken, that was put on there, that they would comply with all applicable state and federal regulations at the time.
Yeah.
I think that was condition of approval.
Yes, exactly. Any future fuel storage shall conform to all state of New Hampshire and Town of Rollinsford regulations.
Right. Do you store fuel on there?
No.
There's no fuel storage right now, it's just the vehicles that are.
I think the biggest issue was that we didn't know what was resolved about with the landscape.
Right,
And
right.
Clearly, it's.
Well, we asked for a
It was
waiver
waived.
at that time, so,
Right.
if this is a new application, we might
Looking at
want
the
to.
site currently, that's why we were
That's
concerned,
right.
because we didn't think anything had been done, but we
Exactly.
asked for a waiver.
Clearly, you didn't have to do it.
You didn't have to,
We
right?
didn't have to.
So, okay, it makes more sense to us now, I think. And the Quonset hut was a concern too.
Yeah.
If the minutes reflect they were gonna keep it.
Anything else of note, or is that about it?
No, we did mention the HIS waiver and the other waiver that you, the landscaping
And
plan.
Traffic analysis, maybe,
Traffic analysis was not
that was not.
mentioned, although driveway permit application had been submitted, I don't.
I have a copy of the driveway permit, it's.
Yeah, it's right on the plan.
And then,
Yeah.
did your septic design get approved?
Septic design's approved and installed, and in Rollinsford, there's a review process for septic tickets to the state, so the town actually has a review of their own, which I have the approved.
Well, you have the approval, right?
And I got the approval on
That's about this time.
Right. So the only thing that I can tell you that I'm not sure was done, and I don't even know if something in this area specific about the lighting that was requested.
Lighting was not discussed.
It was not discussed. Okay.
Specifically, it was discussed generally,
Okay.
but not
With
specifically.
no conditions of everything. So there hasn't been any lighting, and that's why I, installed, that's why I was wondering whether it was a condition. What John's comments are is added some lighting, adding some landscaping. If you want me to present what I think we can do to do that, or if we want to go through John's comments, that's fine.
So why don't we,
Should we accept the application?
Yes.
I'll move that we accept the application.
thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
This is for whether it's complete, I will second that.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the application as complete? All opposed? Okay, we're good.
Do you want me to run through my comments quickly? And
Yeah.
then Kevin can respond?
I think that'll be helpful.
So my first comment is, well, it's obviously I only looked at this plan, so I never saw any other supporting documentation. I just saw the application. There's a waiver in there for something, I don't know what it is, but we'll have to deal with that later. Number two, there's a plan note that refers to a 20-foot wide public service easement, which is not on the plan, and I don't know where it is, or if it impacts anything here.
I can show that on the plan. I can tell you that it's the line that runs to the Quonset hut.
Okay,
That's the easement that I was granted.
okay, that's fine.
So I can add
That needs to be added, yeah.
location.
So I guess in my comment number three, we learned that the Quonset hut was approved by the planning board, so that's fine. Number four, I would assume that you're gonna generate some waste, scrap metal, oil, and how it's gonna be dealt with, whether it's bins inside the building or dumpsters outside. You need to tell us how you're gonna deal with that. My thought on parking now that the public's gonna be here, if you're driving your car up at 5 o'clock at night in December, it's gonna be pitch black, and I think that there needs to be lighting both on the building and the parking lot. I don't think it needs to go all the way down the driveway, but within the parking area, that needs to be lit.
Sure.
Again, I mean, now I've sort of changed my opinion. I don't know what happened 5 years or 4 years ago, but I do think there could be a little bit of landscaping out here, and I would think it would probably benefit you.
Right.
And probably at the entrance. I don't think it does much to go back to the building to landscape, but maybe at the entrance. This is a tough one for me. The site plan review regulations requires that the driveways and parking areas be paved. I'm not so concerned about the driveway, and I think it'd be unreasonable to ask you to pave that. But my next comment is the ADA, and I actually looked this up, the ADA specifically says gravel does not comply.
Yep.
So, I don't want you to think I'm, the heavy here, but if you get sued by someone that says they can't wheel a wheelchair from the ADA space to the building, that's a problem for you. And I don't think the planning board should be doing. So I think the area around the building and including the customer parking ought to be paved.
So that's currently not paved at all?
It's not paved at all, and I agree with John. I looked up the ADA regulations.
I mean, I'm not an ADA expert, but that was a pretty easy answer to
I
find.
totally agree with you.
There's a spelling error,
Yeah.
and that's all it is.
Okay.
So I don't think, even those, a few comments here, I don't think they're that serious. I just think that there's some cleanup needs to be done in the site to make it work for the public.
Can I address what?
Yes, please.
Okay, so what I've taken this plan basically and highlighted in red based on John's comment, okay? The first one is a 20-foot easement, public service easement. We're gonna add that on there.
My biggest concern was, if it was going over the building, and
Yeah.
no one ever picked up on it, that could be a problem.
Right, and they
That's fine.
specifically call out
Yeah.
those poll numbers,
That's
so it's
sure.
very specific. Secondly, this apron around here, which would include the ADA handicap space and one customer space, as well as an apron 25 feet out from the building, extension of the building, what we're proposing is either asphalt or concrete pavers. So the rest of it, I have a waiver request for not paving the remainder of the driveway. As far as lighting goes, what we're proposing is to put a light on the front of the building where the bay, this is where the bays are, by the way. And then an additional light here on this existing pole, which will help cover this area over here. Most of this is barely even used for, it's more or less.
I don't care about that. That's reasonable. That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
it's more if you park your car, I want you to be able to get in the building safely.
Exactly.
So,
And then additionally, what we're proposing is some landscaping along the driveway here and a screening here along this part of the, right adjacent to that parking area. And I'm proposing Norway spruce just because we can't put arborvitae in, the deer just annihilate it. So, I mean, I think Dan on the last one said, I don't know what he said, but it was something else, but
It
whatever.
was
it is.
it was a type of
It was a-
juniper that's
right, juniper.
supposed to be, it was a strain of juniper that's supposed to be deer resistant. I'm
Well,
not sure.
I've had good luck with these Norway spruce.
I would rather see those.
Yeah, and what I propose is to do, they're 6 to 7 feet tall, 8 feet on center, to let them grow in.
Sure.
Okay, so that's how we would like to address those. Now, with regard to the materials being stored, are currently, again, we might even address that. He has an oil storage bin that when it gets time, somebody comes in and retrieves it.
Service.
The rest of it is stored inside for when it builds up, and he brings it to recycling. So there's really no outside storage.
They just put a note on
Yeah,
there.
just put a note on
And,
it.
and then, you know, if there's a dumpster for scrap metal, just show it on the plan, so
Yeah.
we don't have to get a call, or, you know, what, is this good, is
Right.
this bad?
Right,
You know,
right.
I would assume you generate a fair amount of scrap metal, and if you're gonna put it in a dumpster, just, I think there's, I don't care, but I think it should be shown on the plan.
Yep.
Just so we don't
I
see.
totally agree.
Yeah.
And then moving forward with compliance, I don't know how, are you gonna address that later on when you're talking about other stuff too, or is there somebody that does a compliance check on this, I guess is a fair question for the board in general, I think that might be good for you.
Well, it would appear, I mean, it would appear that you've complied with your 15 approval, so, yeah, and we don't have any indication that you have.
I just mean moving forward, that, you know, at a later date, if someone gonna come up for compliance, that we've added the landscaping and the lighting.
Oh, I
and
think,
that's-
yeah, I think, yeah, Tom Clark, the building inspector.
Building
will.
inspector.
Tom Clark, okay.
Yeah, so we'll take the approved site plans and say, you know, you're ready, you know, you can open up now and you can do what you
Okay.
wanna do.
And we reached out to Tom several times, I know he's.
Well, I think the selectmen will handle
He's
that.
very busy, but we reached out to him about the ADA requirement for the parking, and we did not hear back from him, so that's why I went and researched myself, did find out what he did, so that's why we're
Did you
calling
try him
him.
this week by any chance?
I haven't.
Oh, he's on vacation.
Oh, is he? Oh, we might have tried him this week, I don't
That's
know.
probably why, so he's usually pretty good. so.
Okay. So anyways, we just researched it and found what you found, that, you know, gravel's not acceptable for the ADA, so that's why we're proposing this. So if.
And again, I want you to be protected too.
No, listen, we're on board with it,
Okay, all right.
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And with the landscaping is fine, the lighting is fine, so, I mean, Dan just wants to be able to move forward, he has some state, sometimes they come by for compliance checks, and he wants to be, you know, in compliance with the state inspectors. So, if the board sees fit that we could have some conditions of approval, is what I described, from what John has here, and then I can submit the plans to John for his review, make sure that those are in compliance before we get signature of Miles.
Okay.
And again, this doesn't get recorded because it's a site plan.
Right.
You're currently doing commercial vehicles, only commercial vehicles?
Excuse me?
You're currently only doing commercial vehicles, right?
And now I've been doing some
Some
residential.
residents,
Passenger vehicle.
passenger.
Okay.
Um,
I just have some concerns regarding when I see vehicle storage area around the service station, I become concerned about one vehicle becomes 27 vehicles. And with no limitations on that, that causes me concern. Further, when I think of vehicles going to repair, what triggers in my mind is a vehicle in need of repair often leaks items, and where these vehicles are traversing this gravel area, and while they wait to be repaired or not, you still have a vehicle that may not be parked on any sort of a gravel, on any sort of a paved surface, that may or may not be leaking into gravel. I'm not saying they all do, and I'm not saying they all don't, but just when I see vehicle storage, vehicles in need of repair sitting on gravel with no other limitations, that does cause me some concerns to give an approval to a project like this where we have, you know, wetlands and other things in proximity. That's a concern that I would like to see, some limitations and some very stringent guidelines to have to follow. Example being, you may have 5 cars, no vehicle may sit more than, X days. understandably, there is a policing issue, you know, and of course, you know, the town's resources are stretched quite thin, but without that limitation in place, then there can be no further follow-up. Should that one vehicle become 3 vehicles, become 6 vehicles that sit through the winter?
Sure.
I would just be fearful of getting approval
I
if we
think
don't.
the language we used for Paul's and Taylor Auto, but it was, I think no unregistered vehicles.
But he was also parking over pavement
No, I
that
was
was in
talking about.
question about its.
Right, I'm talking
its-
about the duration of cars.
Its
We don't
condition.
want 10 junk cars sitting there and
Absolutely not.
just sort of stealing parts.
I don't
off.
really want any junk cars sitting on gravel. And I know Paul's pavement was questionable in several places, and I know at his expense, he did pave.
Yep.
And I'm sure that was a great expense, but that was at our request. So I would be very fearful of approving another repair shop that is not held to the same standards that we held Paul to. Granted, he's higher, more visible.
Sure.
But in the interest of fairness and also in the interest of protecting our community, I just worry about vehicles needing repair sitting on the ground.
Kevin, if you look to the left of the building where the bays are, so when you pull in, the bays are the front of the building.
Yes.
So if you look to the left, I don't have a scale with me, but it looks like there's room for at least 2 vehicles, maybe double stacked. You know, two next to the building, and then maybe two in front of them.
That's right, that's
I
about.
wonder if we could identify that area as,
But that, on his plan where he's looking to add either asphalt or concrete to that side of the building,
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking
right,
about
but
right there.
that's,
But I think.
right, that's not shown as him
Oh, right,
changing the
right,
surface.
right,
He's
right.
only the face of the building and to the left, but once again, not the side of the left, just barely.
Extend that over.
But then we want to force you to do pavement, not
Not pavers.
pavers.
Yeah.
Because Kevin's concern is
Yeah, no, I understand.
liquids weeping through.
But that's not my only concern. My only concern is limitations on the number of vehicles that can sit.
But if we were to, so if we were to pave,
Absolutely.
I don't want to design this, but if we were to pave the area to the left of the building, so extend that apron
Extend this
over,
over.
you could probably put, I would say easily 4 vehicles in there.
Yeah, probably more like 6 or so.
Would that make sense, Kevin?
I'm sorry.
Paved to the side.
Can you show them that?
I would not have a problem if every vehicle that was allowed to park there was on pavement, correct. But I would like to have a finite number of how many vehicles
Well, you're a one-man band.
are gonna sit there.
So,
And nothing against you at all, Mr. Peppin, at all. I'm just thinking out loud here that you could pave that too, and you could put 4 cars there. But when 4 cars become 6, and it's not your fault if a customer can't afford to pay, the car sits there, they won't, you can call them all day you want. They're, you know, you can't just send it to the junkyard. They don't have $200 to have it towed somewhere else, so the vehicle sits. And you can't do really anything about it because it's not your vehicle. I know you go to the state and claim it, you know, I know that process takes some time. But nonetheless, we have a disabled vehicle that we've allowed, because the numbers grew, to sit on concrete, to sit on gravel.
So if we were to extend that over to, extend this over here and make that pavement and limit it to 6 vehicles max?
If there was payment for 6 vehicles, and you were allowed to have 6 vehicles sit, providing that they didn't sit for X number of days, weeks, whatever.
Sure.
That, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But unless it was spelled out that specifically,
Right.
number of vehicles, you know, paved parking for all, and none to sit more than so many days. Because that's sort of a standard we held other businesses too, that, just speaking a lot, I wouldn't feel confident at all approving a project that didn't have those limitations.
So could we come up with some language that council would like John review and time?
Anything you'd like.
Something very
I have
similar.
nothing against the project, that's just my own.
So I guess what we want you to do is sort of dimension that off so we could stack 6 vehicles in there, or whatever it is. If it's-
Yeah.
If you want to limit it to 4 vehicles, that's fine. And then we need language to be put in the plan, and I can't remember what we limited Paul to, but I would say like no vehicle can sit there more than 45 days. I think probably 30 days isn't enough, that's a major project,
We
maybe.
could use the same language we use on that. you know?
Yeah, I know.
Then Paul, then I don't know who did Paul's.
So I wasn't here the day it got approved.
Oh, no, so we don't have those.
We have a process now where we have to file these things, but prior to,
Yeah.
I don't know who
They didn't
prepared those
file.
plans.
How long ago was
It was January 2016.
It was an engineering firm I had, it wasn't like the top three we usually deal with.
Where are they?
I don't know.
Where's that?
Right around Main
Across
Street.
the street.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
I wasn't here. I wasn't here then.
Hold on, I can tell you.
I'm embarrassed to say, I don't remember.
But it was conditions of the, I mean, wasn't John listed on the actual plan as far as the limitations he had for vehicles?
We talked about it at length, I'm pretty sure we did.
I'm
We
sure
talked
it's
about how long.
Verbatim on the final, where
It
it
was-
needs to be.
It was Jeff Oliva.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
Was it really?
yeah.
I don't remember that. Well, then call Jeff.
I'd be glad to call Jeff
And get a
the
copy,
language.
and get a copy of the site.
I
We'll
would have
put,
no
we'll put
problem.
If you
the
copy-
dimensions on here, the number of vehicles, and then we'll get the language of how long they can stay. Does that make sense?
That would satisfy me greatly.
I think that's fair, I mean,
Okay.
you know, because we hammered that out for quite a while.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments from the board before we open our public hearing?
So you mind if since we will need some waivers, one being, well, I'll let you read. I've actually listed out 4 waivers here because I went through the site review regulations pretty thoroughly.
Okay.
Just once you get them, I'll just go down to them.
Well, I don't know about high intensity, you've already got that.
Okay, maybe we can drop that off. So the first one is Article 3, Section 1F. The site plan shows, what they're requiring in that section is that you show the structures on the budding parcels within 200 feet of the lot. And we show dimensions to these, the budding buildings, but we don't show the buildings because the scale of the plan would not allow us to do that unless we added multiple sheets to get there.
But isn't there a recently constructed house within that same? Yeah, there's a recently constructed house where there was a house before that was removed. And I don't
Oh, that
even
one, oh, yes.
think- And I don't even think construction's complete.
No, we can show that, we can show that. So I guess this is a waiver for the ones that are not directly in front of that lot, if that makes sense. So the high intensity soil sounds like John thinks that we
Oh,
don't need that.
Nothing's happening, so I don't think it's fair, I don't think we need it.
Traffic impact analysis was the other one. I think we have a DOT permit already, so I can submit a copy of the DOT permit. But I think we probably should get a waiver on that, the technical part, John.
Yeah, that would be.
And then the parking lot design, what we're asking here is the apron that we talked about. And I'll if you want to amend this to say at the garage bay entrance and westerly of the ADA parking spaces and westerly, is that westerly?
Yeah. Easterly.
Yeah, that would help.
East.
Okay, easterly of the building to include the car storage area.
Well, I would just say, except as denoted on the plan,
Okay.
because you're gonna modify the plan anyway.
So I would just throw those out there so there were 3 waivers that we're asking for.
Yep.
Okay. We'll talk about those. So why don't we open up the public hearing to accept any comments, questions from the public?
Mark Kuchar, 204 Summersworth Road. I don't have any problems with this as long as it meets all the approvals and it's a accepted use in that zone, and that's all been checked out, so it's fine.
Thank you for that.
Is it okay to ask? Someone was asking a question. Sure. Mark, did you get a chance to come to the hearing when the first time around, when this happened?
Yes, I do.
So, did you have any concerns then about landscaping or?
No, the only thing I had a concern with was that the only thing I'm worried about is any site work that might affect water to go
Sure.
on my
Onto your
property.
property, sure, yeah.
Yeah. That was it.
Thank you.
anything else? Okay, why don't we suspend the public hearing at this point? So any other comments, questions from the board before we address the waivers?
What I'd like to do, I know that Kevin and Dan probably want a conditional approval tonight, but I really think that we need to see the parking lot, have Kevin draw the parking and pavement up, and it's a big concern of Kevin's, I think it should be a concern of everybody's, and see the notes that were put on Paul's Integrity Auto, and make sure that
I
they,
think that's fair,
rather
given there's.
than forcing a conditional approval.
I wanna see how they
And I
tie
don't
into the
think- I think
size
it's
of
gonna
Paul's
happen.
building versus the size of your building versus the number of bays. I think, I do wanna see that information again.
And I would
Because
just-
we
I
even
would
looked at
recommend-
number of employees and things like that,
Yeah.
with the size of his building and what he expected for traffic and how many cars he expected to be repairing or waiting for repair, so, at this point, without that verbiage in front of me, I don't think I'd be comfortable acting on that specific waiver, but I could act on other ones if you make that decision.
As long as there's no, like, interruption in Dan's business, I don't think there's an issue if he wants to come back.
Are you anticipating bringing in additional staff or?
No.
No.
Miles,
Yes.
it's probably a good idea to get the owner of record on board with a letter, with the final plans. Is
Okay.
that, I'm not sure that was submitted with the application.
We
He
have
signed it.
a letter.
And I have an authorization letter to represent him.
What's his name?
Brian Church.
Right, I think Church has signed the application, didn't he?
I haven't seen that.
Well,
He signed a letter authorizing Kevin to.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you need something more, we can get that.
Okay. Yeah, good call. So do we want to act on these waivers tonight, or continue?
I
the whole-
don't, well, let's just talk about it real quickly. The first one, I think, is pretty much a no-brainer. Kevin does need to pick up the new house out there, so I would suggest that we have him pick up the house.
Yep.
I don't think 2 is required. 3, I think that's gonna be a slam dunk. And then the third one rather, the parking lot design, I really would recommend that you wait to see what he comes
Okay.
up with. So I would do them all at once.
Wait,
You know. And I think we also wanna see the landscaping and the lighting, on the plan, so, I mean, this is not a complicated review, but let's just wrap it all up the right way
Yeah,
at the
so,
September meeting.
so as long as it's just a sense that these waivers are reasonable, moving with the discussion that we've had.
No problem.
Okay.
You shouldn't interrupt his business.
Not at all.
Way to go.
No, we'll get all this stuff ready for the next meeting.
Okay.
I think you'll find the notes helpful, Kevin, because I think also, as my memories come back to me, I think we also addressed in terms of waste parts, how they could be stored, and I think there was also language perhaps about selling on the property. That
Right.
Oh, right.
There was a
yeah.
prohibition about
No sale.
selling
Selling vehicles?
vehicles and/or, I think there was a concern before about just selling miscellaneous things on the other property. We're talking about, right, boats, and, so I think you'll find the comments helpful on Paul's. We covered a lot of things that will be common to this one.
Okay, well, I'll get ahold of Jeff and get all that information. And I'm sure Jeff has a copy of the site plan he can provide me, so I get those notes right off.
So I think we do need a motion to
Continue to September.
continue with that.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none?
Excellent. Thank you, thank you for your help. And do you know the meeting date that?
We're gonna meet on the 4th, unless anyone has any, so 4th,
Is that Labor Day?
I'm not
It's
gonna
the
be there.
It's the day after Labor Day. Do we wanna, if you're not gonna be here,
I'm not saying you
I
can't
know.
have a meeting.
I know, but it.
When is, I'm gonna say it again?
The 4th.
You're not gonna do it?
No, no, I'm being out of town in Boston.
That's not very far, you can come back.
Well,
I'm just gonna go see Pearl Jam.
We're gonna-
Wait for us.
yeah, no, we should have an alternate then. We need to have someone taking about it.
Okay.
So we don't
We can,
run into the problem that we ran into.
Do we anticipate a heavy agenda or not?
I only know of this so far.
Have you heard anything? I mean, I don't mind taking notes if you can read my hand scratch. Would that be a problem?
No,
Do you-
that's
Are you
not-
gonna write them on your hands, or do you?
Nothing tonight, you're gonna clean tonight.
I watched them earlier. I mean, I don't mind doing that.
Okay.
I mean, if it's a 3-hour meeting, that might be a problem, but if it's 1 hour, or 1 or 2 applications, I can do it, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Then it's the 4th.
Fourth, great.
We'll meet here.
Excellent. Thank you.
And you'll be first on the agenda, so I can sit through all the,
Yeah, no problem, I understand.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have just a few more things to talk about. I can wrap this baby up. Approval of the minutes.
I did, I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
been a
like,
week
they
out,
were like,
week out.
I don't remember.
we have,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as,
Alright.
and time fashion.
from July, yes.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Correspondence, I didn't see any. There's a little flyer here that, from New Hampshire Department of Environmental Service. Other business, the filing of approved plans at the registry and the application process. So John's provided us with an analysis of the plan for filing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, all you guys need to do is decide what, you need to come up with a fee to record something. And, you know, I did talk to a bunch of towns. Stratford is pretty, not lax, but the percentage of success in recording plans is pretty high. So I don't know how long it takes to get from this office to the registry and back, but.
And time
That's-
spent there.
And time spent there. I mean, you know, I did talk to, most of the time I said do it, talked to, said it was about a 10 or 15 minute ordeal there. So travel time plus,
15 minutes from here, maybe.
so.
It's actually, it's 20 minutes, cause I live just around the corner
20 minutes,
from
yes.
the registry. Yeah.
So 20, so I mean, it's
Sometimes an hour.
hour 15 or so, I don't know, you know, so I guess the selectmen need to decide what that fee is. Is it $50, is it 30, you know, and then you brought up a good point, if they record 2, they're going twice, but then that gets sort of, you know, like how
You
do you.
split it, but, yeah.
If we don't know that's gonna, I mean,
We don't know.
personally,
I
I would
think we
just
should have
say
that
the
gray
fee is
area. I think
$50,
this is
or
the
whatever
fee.
it is.
Right.
Whatever the fee is to cover your time, plus the L chip, plus the recording.
There shouldn't be an arguing point of you're delivering two or you're doing one, no.
Yep.
This is
The
the
applicant
fee.
doesn't know. You're going there with someone else.
And then the only other thing that I would say is just put language in there, that this is that this fee covers one trip. And that if for any reason the plan can't be recorded, that the additional fees will apply.
Okay. This.
But I think it should be spelled out as that same fee.
The same fee, right.
That same fee. It's
Well, it
not-
wouldn't be the L chip, it wouldn't be the recording, it would be the administrative fee applied.
Whatever that portion is.
Whatever that is.
That is,
Does
yes.
50
yeah.
seem reasonable?
I don't know what you pay your staff, so I can't tell you. I think it's reasonable, yes.
Less than 50 for an hour.
I don't think, I personally don't think you're gonna go to an hour. By the time you go downstairs, you go down the car, drive to the park, get in, I don't know how long it's gonna take.
Listen, if it's $50, I'll do it, it's like on my way home.
Well, whatever you all think is reasonable, I don't know. I don't think any applicant's gonna balk at a $50 recording fee.
What was the average fee from the towns you looked at?
They were all different, but I would say 50 is right in there.
50 is reasonable.
Fee covers one trip, additional fees applied if.
Is she gonna charge you for mileage?
No, it's one or the other.
Right.
You know, how many miles is it?
Plus,
It's 10.
L
Round
chip.
trip?
So
No,
that's-
it's 10 from
To the
there.
courthouse?
Yeah.
Really?
Mhm.
What's that, so?
Oh, right.
L chip
I'm
fees,
thinking
what's the other one?
Liberty.
The recording.
Yeah.
The actual
Yeah.
recording.
It is a one-shot L chip. You don't even need to record, you don't even need to reference that. All you need to do is reference the fee schedule on the Stratford, Stratford.
County fees,
So 2 miles.
Right.
Whatever they are.
Yeah, because they're all laid out on there, the plan size.
Because they'll be different for all the plans.
Yeah, it would be the county fee plus the administrative, that's it.
I'm just trying to find. Street.
It's the website's good, the register's pretty good.
Okay, so I have filing fee of $50, fee covers one trip, additional fees applied if you need to go back, plus L-chip and actual recording fee as provided by Stratford County Registry of Deeds.
I would even wipe out L-chip, just say plus the recording fee, because the L-chip is, you'll see it there. And that's only per lot created,
Okay.
so,
Plus actual recording fees
plus extra recording.
as provided by the Stratford County
Yeah.
Registry of Deeds.
That's
Okay.
right, yep. I don't know how you make checks payable, you know, if you require the check to be.
The $50 check would be to the town of Rollinsford, and the other check is to the Registry of
Right,
Deeds.
that's what I would do.
So have them call over, ask how much.
Whoever's doing it, Sarah, Caroline, whoever's doing it here, it's very, very simple. You know, all they do is measure the plan size, look at the website, measure the.
Oh, okay,
It's very,
there's a,
yeah, we don't, like, there's a fee for these, we never record these, so it'll be plans that we record.
yep, okay.
And then the L-chip per lot, you know, if the lots are.
So this is just an amendment to our policy, this doesn't change any.
Doesn't change anything on our, it's the selection policy.
Do we need to add that fee to the fee
Yeah.
schedule?
You can either add to the fee schedule, or we could put a note that recorded plans will be charged, will be assessed a fee, you know, per the board of selectmen. I don't know how you want to handle it.
It's like we need to adopt this before you can.
Personally, I'd almost
So why don't we
rather,
do that and then
I'd almost rather record the fee at the end, because if for some reason the plan doesn't get approved,
Right.
then you have to give it back the fee.
Right.
That's sort of,
Mhm.
you know, another step. So it might be easier to do, just to put it like an asterisk saying that recording fees will be charged
At the time.
at the time of recording.
Just less of accounting or
Right,
administrative
right,
nightmare.
yep.
You know,
I mean, I've never seen.
Unless it's an upset people, potential for upset people. If they get through an approved plan, they're gonna be more than happy to pay $50 to get it done.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about before.
And we know they'll actually get filed, so it's a good thing.
So this is all in the select board to approve, adopt.
And the tax collector who was doing it previously has agreed to do it again, so.
Okay.
Wonderful. And then there was just an application process.
Yeah, I guess we wanted to sort of, Caroline and I have been talking about it, it's sort of an ongoing thing, like, so when an application comes in, who needs to get it? How many copies do we need? Where does it need to be sent to for review?
Electronic is required or not, how many big copies, how many
Yeah.
small copies?
And, you know, just,
That should be all spelled out, right? So there's a checklist, you need this.
Yes.
Well,
it's-
there's
it's-
so many plans are required, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but that's spelled out, but where the breakdown is, and I don't know why, but it broke down horribly this week, because all three of these guys were experienced. Usually, and I don't know how they do it, but they always call me and say, hey, I've got an application coming in, can you swing by my office, I'm gonna drop off a set of plans. That typically happens. It's harder when you have like a Cumberland Farms with a Manchester, engineering firm, because they may not know who I am.
Right.
But I do think if the process is, you know, whether I'm here or somebody else is here, somehow the person sitting in my chair needs to get those plans well in advance. And it's not just the plans, I really want everything, and I want paper copies, I want the big, full-size plan. Electronic copies don't really do much. So, you know, maybe we should spell out that a separate package.
Is mailed to you,
Is
and
mailed
they
to me.
mail it, so we
And-
don't have to deal with that.
And then in terms of Pat Macklin had a different, I don't know what Miles' opinion is or this board's opinion is, but Pat was pretty strongly opposed to me recommending an application be sent to the engineer for review. He always wanted to make that call. Sometimes people are like, I know it's gonna be reviewed by the engineer, I'd like to save some time and just sort of compress the review period. I'm happy to send it over there, we're willing to pay the fee. You know, I don't know how you guys want to handle that. You know, I think, why would you come here, get together, and then just say, okay, let's send.
Right, then we need to wait a
review.
meeting.
If they're willing to pay the fee and they wanna, and they're agreeable, I would just send it there. I suppose there may be a case where I say it should be reviewed by the town engineer, and you say, geez, it really shouldn't have been.
Right.
But
We can't see that happening right now.
it doesn't.
If you think it's gonna, I think we're gonna be we're receptive to hear your opinion. And I like the idea by X day even, that you should have receipt plans, hard cover.
So
hard copy
in that,
plans.
in that case, if I were to make the call, I would just say, hey, this plan is complicated enough, or it involves enough moving pieces that I think we gotta send to the engineer, and I think I would tell them, get another set over to, and they can deliver directly to JT.
I prefer the professional that we've hired to make the call.
I completely
Nothing
agree.
against you, Miles.
No.
Whoever's sitting in the chair.
And I don't think, I hope I'm not mischaracterizing what Pat's opinion was, but I'm pretty sure that he always sort of wanted to weigh in on that before I did just, made the call, so. But, so if that's how the process is gonna work, I could direct him to that. And then maybe at time I say, I don't think it's necessary, you all look at it, but then we haven't lost it.
So would you just directly address the applicant and tell them to send the
Yeah.
plans for review?
Yeah.
But you wouldn't send it back
Well,
to us?
that's what I did with Dana. I did it here in a public
Okay.
meeting. At our last meeting, if you recall, I said, you ought to get these to Jay.
Okay.
And we also nodded our heads, but it happened to be that Dana came in for a pre-application meeting, and he rolled out the plans, and I said, get those over to Jay for his
Yeah,
review.
well, I just don't wanna have to be responsible for like you telling me telling
No,
the
it'd be
applicant.
easier if I just tell the
Okay,
applicant,
perfect.
get
Yes.
them over there for the review.
Okay.
Yep.
I also think that any reviews that come out should definitely be CC'd to Caroline and I, so that we have it where, like, I didn't get Jay's review of the C&J.
Well, and I wasn't sure whether or not it was appropriate for them.
Yeah,
to,
Caroline
you know,
asked me, should they forward it to the applicant? I said, yes. They pay for it, so they should see
Yeah.
it. And plus, it's sort of, why blindside them and say, here you go.
I agree,
So,
I'm
yeah,
not a
no,
decision maker, so I.
Right, no, I think it was a good question, and I think as soon as most municipal engineers would just automatically copy it to the applicant. I don't know why Jay doesn't do that, but if you get it, just send it right out to the applicant, and send it to the board, so.
Well, I think most applicants, when they're starting this process, timeliness is a factor, and anything that they can do to keep it moving along and get a heads up on a report, or to send for review, I think
Yeah.
that they'd be receptive to
I
that.
think Jay's hesitation was sending it directly to the applicant. For example, with C&J not being sure about our stormwater regulations. He wants to be honest in his review, but he doesn't want to throw the town under the bus publicly necessarily about our regulations up to date. Do they include the latest stormwater regulations that are ordered by the state? Do we have a deficiency in announcing that out loud? That kind of thing, so that it's more, I think his intention is perhaps more of an internal document for us to review. And then
Yeah.
maybe factor into your review that you send. I don't know.
For me, I would, I'm happy, I've known Jay a long time, I think he does a good job, I think he's thorough, I think he's honest, I would just send it right to the applicant. I would have no
And I think
issue.
if Jay had the understanding that he knew this was going to the applicant, maybe his verbiage might be a little bit different and be a little
And so maybe that's the
sensitive to our
thing.
deficiencies, right?
Maybe you ought to make that clear to him
Yeah,
then, that they're
that's
just gonna
fine.
go, so that he knows
Yeah,
that.
that's fine. And there's been times when Jay says something and this board says, with the Blue Mill, he brought up some points that we just couldn't resolve, and it wasn't we didn't listen to him, we just.
We took it under advisement.
Right, so, and that does
Move
happen.
forward.
So, yep, I think that's the process to follow.
I also think we need to sort of discuss like how many plans that people should be submitting, because we are drowning in paper there, and it's hard to
And I
tell
wanna
what
talk about the
is.
drowning in paper too, but continue.
So it's almost like, so when an applicant drops off an application, I don't need 9 of these.
Nope.
I don't need 9 of these at this meeting, because this isn't the final plan usually anyway.
Right.
So, can we say, the regulations say one thing, it says that, it basically asks that a copy for every member of the board be given when you give your application. But the reality is that that's way too many copies and unnecessary.
We don't look at them until the night of the.
Right.
You don't send packets to the members in advance, do you?
No.
Okay, then I would say 4, I don't know how many is enough, I would say 4. I want a full-size set,
Yeah.
but they can send them to me directly, so
Yeah.
that, let's say that's an extra one. I think 4 sets is more than enough.
I wanna make sure everyone has a chance to see it, right? Like,
So,
someone's
yeah,
not
so,
hoarding
like,
it.
They have to be at the town office.
Yeah, we
anyway,
have to
because
have
it's
a
public
copy.
hearing, they have to be publicly available, so they're
Okay.
here.
But 9 is,
Small copies.
but 9 is ridiculous.
yeah.
I don't
There's
even-
some
I
sign
mean,
change.
would you
Not
as board
change,
members like it if, I mean, applicants are responsible for sending a digital copy, and usually you have to chase after them to do it, but if we sent a digital copy and you recorded a digital
Oh,
copy
that would
before
be-
the meeting,
that would work
is that
for me.
something that?
I would,
Here's what I'll tell you about a
That
digital
would be
copy,
easy.
they're horrible.
Yeah,
you just
Well,
can't.
Well, even with a massive screen, you know, like they're so busy, they're very, very hard to look at, unless you're used to it, you know? I think most people are gonna pull those up and just get a headache. It's fine to forward them for the board, for the members that can use
but
them.
what about like forwarding a copy of the application just so they have a general idea of what's coming before?
I don't know, I mean,
I think that gives us a chance to review it as a project as a whole. We know in our back of our mind that you are gonna scrutinize it, that's what we count on, that's what we appreciate. You know, we know that's gonna happen, so I don't look at what type of trees are on there, but I'd like to see the layout, how
maybe
it
what would be
falls on the
helpful is to
land.
send an electronic copy to the board members, they can either choose to look at it or not.
Yeah.
And if they have questions, it might say that they can come down here to the town hall and look at the paper ones, is that fair?
Yep,
You know? Well, I think to send, in 11, my fear, I happen to send to the zoning board in my town, and we will not take 11 by 17s, because they're so small you can't even read them.
Yeah.
So I either want a full-size plan or I don't want anything. So I wouldn't waste your time with 11 by 17s. I think they're a waste.
It's one meeting.
But unless it's an easy, simple plan. But
okay.
unless the other people think otherwise, but I
So
find.
you think they should only submit the application and full size? And
Well,
plus
I
the
don't know,
digital
if the
copy?
board members, I mean, you guys, if you could read those, I mean, the older I get, the harder it is.
No, I can't read
can't
any
read.
of this right.
I mean, they're fine for reference to say, oh, yeah, I see that, but they're hard to read.
I don't need glasses.
Well, you might wanna reconsider that position.
So do you think that applicants should not even bring these to meetings?
Oh, they can bring them to me, I think they're good to
Yeah.
pass around. You know, is what I find, I see oftentimes the boards I work for is, you'll see a couple of big size plans out around the table, and then everybody will have the 11 by 17s. And that way they can say, oh, what, you know, I can't really read this, but I can
Yeah.
see that. So I think they're helpful for the board, but I wouldn't waste, you know, so maybe one 11 by 17 for each board member, and then 4 paper copies, that's probably fine.
Okay. What do you think about asking applicants to recycle their?
This is New Hampshire, we have a lot of trees. I don't. Well, the problem is you're gonna ask them to do it, they're gonna walk down and throw them in the bin, so I don't.
Yeah, they're not gonna
Just
take
leave
them home, so we
recycling bin
can
right
control
here.
it, and we have
Yeah.
recycling, so I'm not worried
Can
about
you charge them for
recycling.
recycling here?
I know a fee.
Leave the police station.
So I'm sorry to insert this, but I was hoping we could spend 3 minutes talking about the maintenance of plans.
I would like the idea.
The select board and planning board have both been blindsided by the lack of history, where there is history to be had. And that's because planning files, we all know, are a mess, and so are zoning files. And that is because they were historically filed by year and by name, which is a way you cannot find them. And now, so subsequently, a half dozen good-natured people volunteered to try to organize that and get it into a map and lot format. But they get partially into that and then overwhelmed. And so now we have complete destruction in the planning office of the planning files. We also have too many copies of plans, and we have unofficial plans, so we have a mess. And so what Miles and I have talked about digitizing plans, but that's expensive, it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. And so what I wanted to talk to this board about, which would need select board approval as well, ultimately, but incorporating planning files with zoning and building permits and everything else into the assessing files by map and lot, color coded, so that planning and zoning files have a certain consistent color within a map and lot, so they're spottable, findable, and we can find all the history. to a given property. So I just wanna know if there are any comments or concerns about that before I ask the select board about that. It is gonna mean ultimately, taking over all the file cabinets in my office likely, and so there will be a need for an additional file cabinet, I would suggest in the select board office, but would conversely open up a lot of room in the FAR office.
So currently you have the assessment
I do.
records, and it's by
Matt
Matt
Milan.
Benoit, imagine that, yeah. So
It should be.
you're proposing, so someone comes in, this is for whatever lot, you put it with their assessment information, color
Yes.
coded, I think that sounds.
The only thing I would say is, I think that if you're gonna put zone, let's just say, you're gonna have, basically, you're gonna have a property lot.
Yes.
You're gonna have assessing, perhaps building permits, maybe a zoning section for a lot that has that, and then planning. The only thing I would suggest is that if it's a hanging folder, have individual folders for each of those 4 categories. So if John
Yes.
Q. Public walks in and says, can I see the zoning file, you don't have to give him the whole file.
Right, that's
You
the
know what I
plan,
mean?
hanging files really for each property, and then all the planning folders within
Within
it are
inside,
red,
yes,
and then
yeah.
all the building
That-
boards
I
are
think that's
green,
great.
and, you
Yep.
know.
Yep, I think that's great.
Nice
Nice to have a consistent.
Isn't this something we have to do though? Because I mean, as the record keeper is right now, there's gonna be an issue that comes up that something is, something
Somebody
isn't gonna be able to be
Let me give
fine.
you an example, if you'd like one, real quick one.
Yeah, I mean,
The
this-
neighbors
we have to do
at
this.
Falls Integrity are upset because they believe there's too many cars parked over there at any given time. In different stages of repair or disrepair. We don't have a copy of the plan, we just had to ask Kevin McEnany to go hunting down a copy. And I hope he finds it so we can finally find out what the actual site conditions were, so I can hold him accountable. Can't send the code enforcement officer and tell him, you're only supposed to have X amount of cars there, and I don't know exactly
We can't.
what the number is.
Yeah,
But that was
you
only a
you
year
can't go
ago.
by
That-
the best I
that's-
remember. Yeah.
That's,
It was through this attempted reorganization
Okay.
process that was never figured out,
Okay,
that was never
okay,
finished,
okay.
that just
But
left
unless you're
hanging.
paying someone, I mean, that's when things get done. If someone is being paid to perform the task, granted that costs money, it's a lot to ask for anyone to volunteer their time. And what's even worse is to begin a project and then leave it. Just how far into it did you leave it? You know, the next
Right.
guy's picking up the string.
Yes,
Well, I'm not
but,
sure we should have volunteers dealing with the town records, right?
but
Like-
yet we don't have a lot of paid resources, so everybody's answer is always find a volunteer, and of course, people raise their hand and say, of course I'll do it. So that's why I would like to do this, and that way my office can control it, and we can do this with all the files going forward. And 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, we can incorporate history.
But is there a sensitivity issue where this is generally public record? I mean, we're not talking assessing,
well,
we're talking.
if someone
building
comes
permits.
in, I mean, just tonight, we have this thing,
Yep.
we don't know what happened. We apparently don't have a copy of the approved site plan. We're sitting here looking at Kevin go through his folder. It's a little, we should, if you went over to Madberry and say, hey, well, how, can I see the Pepin, site plan that was approved in 15? It would be 2 minutes. And walk right in, grab the file, bring it out. You'd have it. And you probably have minutes attached to it, and the approval, everything right there.
But none of this paperwork is, there's no problem with a group of volunteers seeing any of this information.
No, it's all.
Oh, no, no.
It's all public record.
I'm a,
But taking this and
Pat
shredding it.
Pat talked about that for
in-
years, having a pizza party. It's never gonna work. I
That's
mean,
not
I
what
think what
pizza
Carolyn is
is.
saying is, if she has 20 minutes, she can go grab 6 or 7, whatever, bundles of junk out of the planning office, and she can figure out what map and, what
This
map
is
and
not
lot
a
is.
project
It
that's
starts
being
at-
solved in the course of a
It
pizza
needs to be
project.
done by
But
a
to start
staff
it and not finish it is one of the worst things.
Well-
The first part of it's gonna be figuring out where it was left at by the next
Right.
previous pizza party, I mean, it's just.
And one pizza party isn't gonna do it, even if we
No,
did that,
no.
Where are you proposing to keep
Yeah.
this size thing?
So, we do have still flat file drawers, so if it can, all right.
Well, is that the one for tonight?
So there are two,
I unfortunately, I didn't recycle it, but I threw it away in that garbage can, and I had it folded to about that. So
so
there's no, you can fold 10 sheets easily.
You can.
you
Yeah.
can, and if
Yeah.
it's more than that, you can rip
Pull
that
apart.
in half, like undo the staples into
Yeah.
halves and fold it into parts.
That can be done.
I don't wanna go through the garbage.
If it's, Bed Bath
Probably
and
like,
Beyond, and
yeah.
it's really an inch and a half thick, then it could be in the
There's-
flat
I mean,
file, the
that-
reference.
there's
Yeah, that fits in the.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
worry, that's-
Okay.
I'll show you something.
Yes, thank you.
But that, I mean, that's a pretty thick plan set for us, so.
It's an orange peel.
That, you know, and if it was 20 sheets, just cut it, you know, just pull it apart.
Yeah,
pull it
we'll
apart.
pull it apart.
But I would not use a flat file, because you're never gonna go, you know.
I wanna save
everything-
the flat files for the subdivisions of streets, so that like for town records and, you
Yeah.
know, those things.
It's a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
Is there any concern with you spending your time on planning board activities? Like, I don't know how it works from
To be
Budgetary.
clear, this is gonna be like, 10 minutes a week to
Oh, okay.
infinity at this, particularly with our current situation. But, the plan is to start here and move forward with new plans
Okay.
in this way. And then,
a.
under direct volunteer supervision, I can, control it and have a plan for how to integrate.
But the
Do you
select
s-
board would have to approve.
Do you
Yes.
still
Okay.
want, like, zoning cases and planning board cases to be compiled in those folders?
I think everything ought to be integrated, and yes, into folders. Well, we can talk about that, these colored files, I'm not sure if we need folders, because we'll have colored files.
Well, see, the only thing is like those manila folders, so you have like all of your receipts for
Yeah, it's
your-
probably a good idea, so they don't fall around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as Mike said, I just wanted to get the conceptual approval and concerns addressed, and then
Yeah, I
select board back.
think it sounds great.
It's tough, and I agree with the starting point. From this point forward, this is when we'll do it, and then chip away at the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a lot of ask of you as well. I mean, the town would have to.
We didn't have assessing files at all before I started.
So it's-
I got that one done, it took 10 minutes a week for
For a while.
a long time, but we got assessing
She got
files.
it done.
Mhm.
So did we hammer out the application process?
Yeah, I think so.
The only other thing I wanted to bring up, and it was a weird thing with this application, is we had 3 experienced applicants, or 3 experienced engineers tonight. All 3 of them screwed up the notice. Well, I don't know if Dana did. I guess he did get it.
He did, I called
You
them.
caught it?
Yeah, I caught it.
So, that's something to point, I don't, and again, I don't think you should have to go through the plans and say, these people need to be noticed, but you should, someone should say, are the people that prepared these plans and that have certified these plans, or had their certification of these plans, have they been notified? And the reason it's important is, just so everybody knows, Mark West is a wetland scientist on one of these projects, I can't remember which one, I think it was on C&J.
Yeah, it's CJ.
He doesn't work for Dana, so he might not know this people, and that's why it's required.
Yeah.
With Jeff Oliva and the surveyor in his office, it's not so important because Jeff's here, the surveyor works for him, or works with him, so, but it's still, it's a law, I mean, it's a statute.
No, I know,
So it has to happen.
that's the one that I,
And you don't want anybody to say
I
that
comment
the
about.
notice was flawed, so I don't know how 3 of these got, like I said it to Jeff, I said, what happened? I don't know, I guess I forgot.
Yeah.
We do this all the time, but, so,
I think it's the people in their office who are doing it, or not.
I don't know.
Yes, they are not the ones that
They
are
have
doing
not.
notices. Cheryl, who was here for Pepin
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first time, she typically does the notices.
Okay.
It's always been an admin, it's not typically.
Well, it was
the
weird that
engineer.
3, again, it was 3, it wasn't like 3 homeowners, it was 3
Well,
experienced
and still, it's
people.
their job, they.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So one last item, I'm not sure if you all know that Patrick, are you still setting sail to Charleston?
Charleston, South Carolina.
He'll be absent for the next 3 months from,
You don't leave in town.
You're not commuting.
Well, I mean.
well, you'll know after the 3 months.
Probably before.
Okay. So I don't know, like, it didn't strike me that we needed him to resign from the board, given he's still a resident of the town and we'll just have
Yeah,
a
an
long term.
And he's a full member,
Long-term sub.
you're a full member.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
The town will bring it back.
So with that, is there any other business to discuss?
Motion to adjourn?
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
When does he take in?
We're still trying to figure it out.
October 14th, I think,
because
right?
No, I don't know if we have a quorum.
You can't meet on the level.
It's on the 11th and the 13th.
I just wanna make sure it's not the 11th.
No, it's not the
Your chair is gonna be preoccupied that
No,
day. Being
I
moderator of
actually-
the town, it's election day.
Charlie's
Oh.
away, I thought he was back, but
Primary day.
I emailed him.
Oh, this is
about-
like the last.
Yeah, I emailed him about the date and I didn't hear back from him.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure he has time.
Okay. Have you got a hold of Harold Foss?
I thought to send you at the 11th, he was time for the 11th.
All right.
So far for the 13th, I have potentially Sunny at Deanna and you. Paul Kavanaugh is not, I have one
Okay.
so I'm not sure.
All right. I actually meant to stop by Sonny's house and ask for this, because I know he's hard to get hold of.
Yeah, if you do, I haven't called him about the 13th. So, break the news to him.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.